Welcome back to Market Day Report. Tommy Grisafi sitting in for Tony St. James and Scott the Cow Guy. Markets are open. Let's get right to it. We have some price action here. All right, March corn up a half. I guess that's the price action we have, but it's still going in the right direction if you want corn to go up. 454 and a quarter. March corn up a half. Looking all the way out to Dees 25, 442. A lot of people have their eyes on 450, 475, and then $5 for getting some corn price for next year. Soybeans had a little volatility today. Jan options expired today. A lot of the trading desks have a short crew, and we'll see if we see some volatility. Some were hoping that we'd go to $10. Brian and I will talk about that in a little bit, talk about those $10 calls, price action they had yesterday. Jan soybeans, 986 and a quarter, down 2. Looking at that March, 994 and a quarter, down 3. Still have a 10 handle in those Mays in July. Nice to see 10 in front of the soybeans. Looking at the Board of Trade wheat here shortly. Board of Trade wheat, it is. Let's go to Chicago, 539 and a quarter, down 1 3/4. Wheat had a good day yesterday, so it's pretty normal seeing a pullback here. We had exports today, normally come out on Thursday, came out on Friday due to the holiday abbreviated session. Hard red wheat, March, 548 and a half, down 3. Nice looking board there. If you want $6 wheat, you're going to have to wait all the way till next year, and we're still not there. 594 and 3/4 down 2. You see these grain markets are quite a lot lower than where they were just 2 years ago. So it's interesting to go back and reflect at the end of the year and see where markets were, what markets are up big and what markets are down. We're going to talk about it later today on Market Day Report on some wild swings in the commodity markets this year. Spring wheat, not too wild over there. 594 unchanged there in spring wheat. Last but not least, cotton. A lot of the trading desks across America, again, just folks took off for Christmas and never came back. But March cotton, 68.55, down 20. Let's bring him in the show. Mr. Brian Hoops, he's coming to us from a random hotel room. He doesn't want people to know, but he's there. Brian, the markets are open. What are you seeing?
Well, last segment we talked about the commitment of traders a little bit, and I'll tell everybody what I looked up. 221,000 contracts. Funds are net long in the corn. Now that's just futures only, so that's a pretty big number. We also talked about soybean meal and how they possibly are changing the trend of meal with the outside weekly reversal. Well, the funds are still short there, about 44,000 contracts, and how you get big moves is you take the funds from being net short to being net long. That produces usually some big moves and big swings in the market. So they've been anticipating big crops out of South America. Prices would work lower, and they were right up until this last week. And now prices starting to reverse. If this dry trend continues in Argentina, look for the funds to buy back 44,000 short positions of meal and possibly go long. Now they go long anywhere from 100 to 145,000 contracts normally. So that could produce some pretty big swings in that meal market. No doubt soybeans would follow along. Otherwise, we're here, we're in Des Moines right now, and it is really foggy, really rainy. And usually the old farmer's tale, I grew up on a farm in northwest Iowa. The old farmer's tale was 90 days after you get that fog, you're going to get rain. And that puts us right at the end of March, early April, when we're thinking about seeding across the upper Midwest. And that should be beneficial moisture for producers as they head to the fields.
Yeah. Brian, talk about corn real quick. Not too long ago, you and I are old enough to remember that the funds were short 300,000 contracts. You say they went from short 300 to long 200, and corn's only at 450. Talk about that. We have 30 seconds, sir.
Yeah. You would think that maybe we're going to be much higher than that, but there's been a lot of farmers selling that as capped the rally. Commercials of course, take the other side of that equation. They've been heavy sellers into this market. I look for corn to really start to gain as we go into that spring time frame, trying to bid a few more acres away. Our ending stocks aren't real tight, but I think the farmer's going to look at the price of corn versus the price of soybeans. And that ratio is going to encourage them to plant more corn in 2025. And maybe we're going to, challenge 94, 95 million acres, something we've only done 4 times in our history.
You stay right there, Brian. You're just loaded with information today. We'll be right back with a little Market Day Report. My friend Brian Hoops coming to us from an undisclosed location in Des Moines, Iowa. Welcome back to Market Day Report. Tommy Grisafi sitting in for my friends on the desk who are just taking this holiday week off. But don't worry, we have it covered. We have it covered because we have live cattle to talk about, and they had a big day, and Brian's back for this segment. Let's get right into the quotes. Live cattle, they are open and moving. December live cattle, 193 even, up 22. Feb live cattle, 190.22, up 12. All the cattle you can see they're up just a little bit on the day. Liking these boards. Is it possible to have a two handle in front of us here in this cattle market? We'll ask Brian here after we talk about feeders. Speaking of feeders, how are they doing? Feeder cattle, Jan feeder 259.45, up 15 ticks. A little mixed board here. March feeders 259.42, down 10 ticks. So not surprised at all to see a lot of these markets backfill, whether it be wheat yesterday or cattle today, feeder cattle. Let's look at hogs. Definitely a lot of spreading going on here when you talk about this meat complex. Sometimes people, speculators, will buy hogs, sell cattle, etc. Feb lean hogs 84 even, down 10 ticks. April 89.15, going out to those back months. June 101.52, down just a few ticks. Let's bring them in. Brian, meats are open. Stage is yours, sir.
Yeah, we're seeing a little choppy trade, certainly not the excitement that we saw yesterday in the cattle complex. You look at a chart, and we're actually $3 off of last week's highs in February cattle. It doesn't feel like it after the big rally that we saw yesterday, but we did have a really big break in between the highs that we made last week and what we saw yesterday. So we've really gained some ground back in here. Still looking for that cash trade develop. We've heard, the bids up to 192, which would be at least $1 higher than a week ago. 194 to 195 is the asking prices. That seems unlikely this week, but with the holiday short and kill weeks, cutout values expected to gain this week and again next week, giving packers back some leverage. I think you'll get to be able to see better prices here in the next couple of weeks. And as we go into 2025, I think there's a very good outlook for the cattle complex, particularly in the second quarter of next year when those supplies get even tighter. If we can keep our profitability and if the consumer doesn't back away, we should see, I think, higher prices in that second quarter.
Yeah, real quick, this is off. This shirt you're wearing, the purple shirt, is that a certain sports team? Who are we rooting for today?
Well, I am actually in Des Moines, headed to Minneapolis. We are going to the Vikings.
Is that what I'm sensing there? Is that what I'm sensing?
That's okay. A good pickup. That's a good pickup.
Who are we rooting for? Packers, of course, right?
Of course, with the purple shirt. You know who it is.
Speaking of football, I went to bed early last night. That Bears game, low score. That was a dud.
Ugly.
Yeah.
Ugly. Kansas State came back and beat Rutgers. I should have watched that game instead.
Well, we should just move this show right to ESPN and get her going. Hey, thank you for sticking around on both segments.
You bet.
You're the best, and thank you very much.
Take care.
Extended Merry Christmas to you and your family.